It's been said, the best investment on Earth is Earth, and in British Columbia we have been blessed with plenty of valuable land. Coal was discovered on Vancouver Island in 1835. The Queen Charlotte Islands produced Canada's first gold in the 1850s. In 1904, the world's then largest copper mine started producing at Howe Sound. Indeed, the BC mining industry has greatly benefited from investing in Earth.
I often say that even with the challenge of unresolved treaties, I think you'll find that there's much more opportunities in the situation we've got in British Columbia than perhaps there is in other jurisdictions. Both the federal and provincial government are very anxious to explore opportunities to work with business and Aboriginal communities to move forward and create opportunities to make these projects work for everyone.
Today, people place a different value on land in our province. Companies now need to earn a social license to build and operate a mine in BC. And these days, First Nations defend their rights over ground containing rich mineral deposits. Shareholders know the value of their venture increases once they get Aboriginal interest and support for their projects.
In order for us to actually be mining here, we have to ensure that there is Aboriginal involvement, that there's Aboriginal hiring, that Aboriginals have the opportunity to bid on contracts and be part of it. And that is part of the license to operate. And if we don't do that, if we don't pay attention to it, we're going to lose that license.
Prospectors, managers, and shareholders are all familiar with the sequence which leads to mineral production. The task as an industry is to educate and build Aboriginal involvement so that they too can benefit. Sometimes it begins with just one job.
It's working with the land, which is one of our traditional things. It's a good fit, and in mining, you do work for a company, but you're kind of doing your own thing. And when I say that, you might be an operator of a big haul truck, and you structure your day, and you don't have anybody sitting beside you right every second and telling you what to do. So it's a good fit.
Like a jigsaw puzzle, the Association for Mineral Exploration of BC has been looking for all the pieces of Aboriginal relationship building to match. The organization has been around since 1912 and today represents about 4,000 members. Getting them to care about First Nation issues means a real change in how the industry survives in BC.
We've almost tripled, from a Canadian context, the amount of exploration investment in British Columbia. I think efforts from the provincial government to create the new relationship has offered to the business community some understanding that there's going to be a new approach and a new relationship with First Nations that we hope will bring increased certainty to First Nations communities and also ourselves.
Ask most First Nations about relationship building experiences, and they will likely tell you they've heard it all many times before. For them, talk is cheap. However, there are real examples throughout the province of mining companies putting their money where their mouths are. It's the most expensive mining project ever undertaken in BC history. More money is being spent building the Galore Creek mine than has been budgeted for the 2010 Olympics. And it could not have happened without the partnership of the Tahltan First Nation.
There's case law out there that says that Aboriginal people must benefit economically from projects. And what's been going on in the past since the 80s is that the main mechanism for that economic benefit was coming through jobs and training. And what's happened is that's what the bar was in the 80s and the 90s. Well, the bar now is raised up to revenue sharing.
There's something wrong with the culverts.
Nova Gold has raised the expectations of First Nations throughout British Columbia. They agreed to provide a check for $1 million for the next 20 years to the Tahltan. But the real test is how relations at the site develop between Tahltan workers and the company.
One day I went into Frank Gish, and I always remember this because it just kind of sticks with me, but I went into Frank Gish and I said, "That's it, I gotta go home." And he said, "Well, oh my God, like why?" And I said, "You know what, I have nothing to read. There's no books in this camp." I said, "That's it, I gotta go." Anyway, he gets on the phone and he gets a hold of the expediter, and like the next day, I had 50 books in camp to read. So, you know, they've been really good to me, so.
It's going to cost over $2 billion to build the mine. Big and small contracting companies are needed to do the work. For the Tahltan, getting a piece of that action means much more than just the prospect of making money.
I just want to prove to the nation that it could be done as an owner-operator, and we don't have to be no mega outfit. We can get by with, you know, a few trucks, a few pieces of machinery, and continue. And if Nova Gold, there's a lot of work there with Nova Gold that we could participate in, such as the hauling, the graveling, you know, the ditching. There's road developments in the mine site that we could be all participate in. And I'm hoping down the road I could help someone be part of this. Like if I can help someone, an independent guy, help get in behind the wheel of a truck or of his own or whatever, I'm going to do my best that way. I look at the younger children, such as my own, and anyone else, is that if they see if some person of my personality or caliber from could grow up and do something like this, that they could do it too, and hopefully we could have more independent contractors. I would like to see more independent contractors.
Business-wise, I'd like to see that roll ahead for the Tahltans. More smaller contractors starting their own businesses, for one. That's the big one that I'd like to see. There's so many different opportunities here for the Tahltan people, but the construction end of it, whatever, whether it be expediting, hot shotting, or whatever. There's so much here that the people can move forward on, and it's only time will tell how much of that will be exploited.
I do think that the mining companies, instead of handing the native people money, like just direct money, I think they should be giving us better schools, more recreational activities, like indoor skating rinks, you know, indoor soccer fields, you know, and having people work and maintain those buildings.
The Galore Creek project goes through some of the most rugged landscape in BC. Ice fields, steep mountain valleys, and close proximity to salmon-bearing rivers make this project an environmental minefield. Nova Gold has promised to look out for the landscape, but most importantly, the Tahltan are watching. They're watching closely because they will be living here long after the mine has closed.
There's been a lot of dialogue with the Tahltan Nation on all aspects, and part of the participation agreement, Tahltans are involved in all aspects of the project, environmentally, social, economically. So the document is a running, you know, it's set in stone now, and it's a big part of our nation. It's going to be a big part of Nova Gold and implementing it properly.
Yeah, I know, but you're up on the hill right now moving those culverts, aren't you?
What I do is for the community, I want to see as many of our people working in the proper roles as possible. I guess I do have a few more connections than some of our main workers, because I know the upper management. And I bring issues there, you know, that are coming from our labor force. And yeah, I never thought about it that way, but I'm very proud to actually be in this position.
And just like that, hundreds of tons of coal are broken free from northeastern British Columbia. Welcome to Tumbler Ridge and the province's newest coal mine. Here, hard coking coal is produced for the steelmaking process.
My own personal opinion on this is that when you develop a mine like this, you have something called a license to operate. And examples are hiring. There is an Aboriginal community around the mine, per se, and various communities, and we ensure that they have opportunities to hire on. A good example, or a concrete example of that, is that 15 to 20% of our workforce is Aboriginal.
And I've just made a move to come back home. There was an opportunity with the mine here, Leadcore, and I thought I would like to come back home. You know, I grew up in Dawson Creek and Chetwynd, and Tumbler Ridge is basically a suburb of it, so I jumped at it, and I'm pleased that I did.
It's not just mining companies who are making an effort to hire more and more First Nation workers. The contractors they do business with are making Aboriginal employment a priority too.
I had spent some time up in the tar sands up in Alberta, and for sure there was a good number of Aboriginals there. Here there's a growing number. It's working out well. It's a company such as Leadcore does strive to involve the Aboriginal community, so it's good. I'm pleased, and that's part of the reason I did come here.
One of the things they do when they start training you is they let you up on the hose so you could get the whole operator's vision of where you want you to park.
You got to see it from his point of view, right?
Yeah. Which I thought was a good idea.
Things get done when people talk, and Western Canadian Coal has made sure they hear Aboriginal concerns loud and clear. It's all about working together for the common good.
Definitely, there is quite a bit of dialogue. I've been introduced to quite a few of the chiefs, council members, presidents of the organizations. And in actual fact, we have a manager of Aboriginal and Community Affairs, and one of his prime responsibilities is to make sure that there are good lines of communications between the groups, so that if there are any needs, either from WCC or from the Aboriginal groups themselves, that they can be addressed right away.
You know, in my dream world, you know, there would be companies owned and operated by Aboriginals that can develop a mine such as this, and somewhere down the road it'll happen.
This is the Tulsequa Chief Mine. Located next to the Taku River in the far northwestern corner of BC, it was the center of a Supreme Court decision. It changed the way government accommodates and consults with First Nations in this province. The case was paid for by environmentalists. Aboriginal people were caught in the middle, and much of what they wanted never did make the news.
Like, I mean, they take everything out of context and make it look like everybody in the band is dead set against the project or development in our traditional territory, which is totally frustrating. And I mean, you have to let people know that there is a good percentage of our band members that want and need responsible development.
Covered and completely plugged tight with cement.
Gilbert Kwok is a member of the Taku River Tlingit First Nation. He says Aboriginal people should try to keep an open mind over what development can do for them at a personal level.
Like, what's wrong with coming home with a paycheck? You know, that makes me feel good, you know, and I mean, it makes my family happy. You know, that's what I would basically try and tell them, that Redfern is in my books, is one of the best, most respectful companies I've ever worked for. So when they say that they're going to give us opportunity, I believe wholeheartedly that they will. Mining and industry, you have a decent paying job, you know, you have work that's physical, that's outside, that, you know, a lot of our members can relate to and would enjoy doing.
It's a cap on a mine that used to make gold literally dissolve from the rocks. The Golden Bear mine operated from 1985 to 2002 and also produced silver and copper. 5 years later, this is what a reclaimed mine looks like. Heap leach pads have been covered over and roads have been seeded with natural grasses. The earth is replenishing itself, and in a decade it will be hard to ever notice there was a mine here.
Water depth is 2.5.
Aboriginal people have occupied BC for thousands of years. They have always understood, used, and respected the land. Now they are taking back their rightful place as the first environmentalists. That doesn't mean they don't want to develop the land. It just means they are using science to understand how it can be used differently.
We work with a company that involves First Nations into a lot of development projects, so they take the time to acquire First Nations people to be out on the job with them, and we was one of those people to be lucky enough to tag along and learn what we learned from the company, and yeah, brought us here today.
And it was a really neat course because it was multidisciplinary environmental technicians topics. And you get kids going through school and they don't even get the types of hands-on opportunities they had. They had about half a day in the classroom here at College of New Caledonia, and then every afternoon they're in the field. And they're doing weather, water, fisheries, electroshocking. We did 2 days of cultural resources and archaeology, and when that project ended, we had a pool of about 20 First Nations participants, First Nations technicians that could go out immediately and take on jobs.
EcoFor and Nikosley band members are working together on the Mount Milligan Copper Gold project. Mooney, a member of the Mi'kmaq First Nation, says Aboriginal involvement helps design a better project.
Negotiations go back and forth, the footprint's getting smaller, the mine's becoming cleaner, it's a smaller, tighter project, and I can't think of many more ways to improve it.
And if you're interested in the industry, you know, like they're willing to, you know, accommodate your skills, you know, put you through a couple of courses, and it's just a great ticket, I guess, to have, you know, to be studying the creeks and studying the fish that our ancestors were using as trails and food and survival techniques for hundreds of years before us.
We are the Smelkmene people.
A people who have taken an expired mine and breathed new life into it for themselves and the region they live in. The First Nation has built a world-class museum and visitor center in Headley. And to pay for honoring their history, they welcome visitors to one of BC's most unique tourist destinations.
Basically what it means is that the First Nations in this area have been mining minerals and trading in minerals long before the gold portion of it. So it sort of fit for the Upper Smelkmene Band to take this over, because with the trade in ochre and chert and flint that they did throughout the centuries, it just sort of fit in.
Since opening, the Mascot Mine Tour has brought in $500,000 per season to the Upper Smelkmene Band. They have taken their own history and blended it with the history of the mining industry, and they are leading the way in getting what they want.
Last year, the Upper Smelkmene Band signed a memorandum of agreement, the first of its kind actually in BC, with the Ministry of Mines. So this band does have, you know, a long history with mining, and is hopeful to have a long future in the mining industry in one way or another, whether it's through tourism or the development of other mineral resources in the area.
Ever since coming on board with AME BC, Dan Jepson has been quietly and softly making new friends for the mining industry. He believes there's a new way of doing old business with this province's first inhabitants, and he says the key is just listening.
I have no doubt that we can develop almost any project in an environmentally sound manner and share those benefits that come from that project with local Indigenous people and communities and all Canadians and all British Columbians.